This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Sharing the love, spreading the light in real time. Friday night love stream.
Very happy to have a guy we instantly resonated with. Unbiased and on the fence. I'm talking about Shane C. Robinson. And his purpose is to rise above the worldviews that are designed to separate us so we can unite as one.
Sometimes you have to sort of take a step back, and I think Unbiased and on the fence is a really, really good title for your show, because you are in the central point when you're unbiased and on the fence. That's what it means. It doesn't mean you're indecisive. It means you are taking the central point and you're seeing the multiple perspectives.
Unbiased and on the fence.
If you haven't checked Unbiased on the Fence, go and check his channel out. You might like it.
From Unbiased on the Fence, Shane.
If this much sincerity enters your life, come to this much. What I know, I know. What I do not know, I do not know. I don't believe anything, I don't disbelieve anything. I'm willing to look at everything. You will become a sensible human being.
Have you checked out our website?
Visit us on the web at uotf.net. You're listening to The Love Stream.
All around the world in real time.
I want to thank you for watching, listening, liking, subscribing, and for those who support this channel financially. Thank you. Lots of love and light to everyone out there.
Your calls, your stories, on air. You're listening to The Love Stream.
Sharing the love and spreading the light all around the world. This is Unbiased and on the Fence.
Unbiased and on the fence.
I wanted to begin this broadcast with some announcements, information, some news that was sent in to me from viewers, and I do appreciate when you all send me things. It might not be very quick that I can get to you, but I do appreciate it. You can go to uotf.net, of course, and find my contact information there, or contact me directly from the website. The first thing I wanted to bring up with us coming up on 11/11, of course this is an 11/11/11 year, because in Gematria 2018 reduces to 11. So I think this is going to be an exciting time. Of course, we've got our get-together here in Tulsa that I'm looking forward to. We're probably going to have to move it indoors because it's like 15 degrees colder than what was projected a week ago. But it's still happening, and I will be sending out the information to those who have emailed me about wanting to get together here in Tulsa this Sunday on 11/11. Now, of course, here in the United States, 11/11 is Veterans Day. And but for an idea for a more global holiday on 11/11, Lori Polina, a fellow YouTuber, sent me some information on creating the 11/11 New Earth Day, Awaken to the New Earth. Now, I think this is very exciting, and it's a great year, being an 11/11/11 year, to begin this. And of course, it's my mom's birthday, it's Veterans Day. I get 11/11 synchronicities on the clock all the time, so I think this is awesome, an awesome idea. So Lori Polina, his link is in the description box below, as I mentioned earlier. And he will also, in that video, you can check it out, but he'll discuss ways to navigate the planetary migration to the new Earth from the unsustainable societal structures of the 3D Earth through the emotional and mental realm of the fourth dimension, where the shedding of our darkness is required, and then onto the 5D Earth, where we, as creator beings in alignment with Source, will begin to construct the new template of cooperation and communities based on love. Now, Lori Polina, he is a QHHT practitioner, and you can actually reach him on his website, which is soulselfawareness.com/blog. Once again, soulselfawareness.com/blog. Angie Dollar sent me some information for a free offer that I did want to get out to you guys in case you're unaware of it. If you live in the Maryland area or know someone in the Maryland area, Mary Ellen Amans is offering free healing therapies for veterans at her healing center. That is coming up on this Monday for Veterans Day. That will be 11/12, November the 12th. This free offer is for Monday at the clinic there. And you can find more information about that at infinity.care, also linked below. Also, I had a listener send me some information, some residue for the Lion and the Lamb scripture, Isaiah 11:6, that no longer reads Lion and the Lamb. So I cannot find that information. It was residue from an old book that I thought was fascinating, and I wanted to share it. So if you are listening, can you please send me that email? Maybe you contacted me on one of the social media platforms. I do everything basically through my email, though, so it might have gotten lost in the mix. I'm just not, I looked all over for it. I'm not sure where it went or how I got it, but I was wanting to share it tonight. For anyone listening and you remember the Lion and the Lamb, the lion shall lie down with the lamb, Isaiah 11:6, being written that way in the Bible. It is no longer that way. You might want to look into the so-called Mandela Effect. I do have a playlist of some of the Mandela Effect changes if you're new to that. But it's a fascinating topic, and it proves reality is not quite what it seems.
Your calls, your stories, on air. You're listening to the Love Stream.
Sharing the love and spreading the light all around the world. This is Unbiased and On the Fence. All right, and we are ready to take calls. Phone lines are open. I want to say hello to everyone in the chat. Let's see if I'm missing anything here. Let me see. Lots to see here. April had a question. What are your thoughts on James 1, verse 1 through 15? Let me look that up really fast. Okay. James 1, verse 1 through 15. James, a servant of God and our Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greetings, my brethren. Count it all joy when ye fall into diverse temptations, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. But let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask God, that giveth to all men liberally, and unabradeth not, and it shall be given him. But let him ask in faith, nothing wavering, for he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea driven with the wind and tossed. For let not that man think that he shall receive anything of the Lord. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Let the brother of low degree rejoice in that he is exalted, but the rich in that he is made low, because as the flower of the grass he shall pass away. For the sun is no sooner risen with a burning heat, but it withereth the grass, and the flower thereof falleth, and the grace of the fashion of it perisheth. So also shall the rich man fade away in his ways. Blessed is the man that endureth temptation, for when he is tired he shall receive the crown of life, which the Lord hath promised to them that loved him. Let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God, for God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempteth he any man. But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. Then when lust hath conceived, it bringeth forth sin, and sin, when it is finished, bringeth forth death. Interesting. What was your question about it? What are my thoughts on it? I think that would probably take an entire show, but just the idea of there being a God that tempts us with, it's all about perspective, I think, if you kind of go from a mainstream doctrinal standpoint, or if you just go from just the idea of, everything is God. God's everywhere and of everything. It's I think this is sort of coming from more of a religious standpoint, just in its wording. But James, brother of Jesus, was probably addressing the religious Jewish people. I mean, he does address it to the 12 tribes. So, which I tend to do as well, and Jesus did it as well. It depends on who you're talking to, what perspective you're going to speak to that person from, because Christianity is really the only religion I've ever been a part of. If I'm talking to a Christian, I'm sort of talking to them from their standpoint, where instead of higher self or, great spirit or some terminology like that, I'll use Holy Spirit and God and, Christ consciousness for being awake and things like that. So I think this was directed at the 12 tribes, which were Jewish, and I think probably just trying to clear up some misnomers that were going about at that time. But any more than that, I would have to really look into the original text and see if anything seems to deviate from what we read right here. A great place for that is Bible Hub. You can go into the interlinear and check that out. Let's see. 321. Are you wanting to talk or are you just listening? Because I see that you're in here along with another guest, but nobody has their hand up. So if you are on the phone, you can hit *2 if you'd like to speak, and I will go to you. Oh, there we go. 321. Who am I talking to? Oh, let me unmute you there, Ronnie. How are you?
Oh, man, I'm tired. It was a rough week with the dog, but I think he's over the hump. I just wrote a blurb about it in the chat. But I had a really exciting thing happen. It was so crazy. So we were having a dog emergency, and my husband was stressing really bad. Now, I've mentioned before, I'm an empath. I mean, I am strongly empathic. I never knew that's what it was. And, when I was a kid, the family would be having a big fight, and I would literally have to leave the room to figure out what I was feeling. And they'd say, well, where are you going? And I'd be like, I have to leave to figure out what I'm feeling here. And I didn't realize it was because I was feeling everything everybody else was feeling, and I had to get away from them so I could feel myself. So now, I know what I am. I know I'm an empath, and, that's fine. It's now I can at least understand what's going on. So my husband was freaking out, really, really stressed over the dog, and I was too. But, he was like really, he's going to die, And I was like, this is not my feelings. And I just made an intention. And I was like, okay, these are not my feelings. And I'm going to take them and I'm going to transmute them into relaxing, healing energy for everybody. And I just sat and was silent for a minute and focused on that. And 15 minutes later, my husband just looked at me and he's like, I don't know why, but I feel so relaxed when I'm near you. And I'm like, what? Okay. So it was working. So I went to the store. I had to go to the grocery store, and I was walking around, and every time I would look up, somebody was looking at me and smiling. And I was like, oh, this is just weird. I mean, people don't do that, just look at somebody and smile at them. So I was like, okay, this is really cool. And then I got home, and my husband said it again. He said, I don't know why, but, when you're around, I'm just so relaxed. I just feel so good. You're just making me relaxed. I was like, oh, my God, it worked. So that was such a huge thing. It was like, we can do this. We can take this negative energy and turn it into something different. And it's not against anybody's free will. They are still free to feel whatever they want to feel. But you don't have to let it come into your emotional field and wreck you. But I will say that it made me exhausted for the next 2 days. I was like wiped out. I went to bed at 8 o'clock one night, which I don't think I do unless I'm sick. And I wasn't sick. I was just tired. So 2 nights I went to bed super early because I was exhausted. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong. If anybody is old hat at this and has some advice, please call in and share, because I must be doing something wrong if it's making me that tired.
Yeah, it's like you used your own energy to transmute it rather than maybe funneling in a higher energy somehow. So yeah, that would be a great thing for someone to mention in the chat or call in, because I think that's exactly, I mean, that you nailed it right there. That's exactly why we're here. When people are resonating in fear and anger, I think it's our job as sort of beacons of love and light to transmute that into something positive. Because I know around in 2008, it's like when the recession was really bad, it was so thick in the air. I could feel it off of my neighbors. And I was also feeling the same way. It was one of the roughest times in my life financially. And I was just revisiting that a few days ago. And so I think it's important that we learn how to do it and do it properly, because I think that's why we're here. We're here to create this net around the planet and, slowly lift it up or go up with it, because it's already ascending. So we're just trying to go with the flow, so to speak.
Yeah. So yeah, it was just such a cool, and the immediate feedback was so uplifting.
Yeah,
it was like it was amazing. It really felt good to be able to make somebody else feel good, without imposing on them, just by taking what was there and changing it. So it was crazy. I was like, wow. I still can't get over it.
Yeah,
so cool.
I hope we can have somebody to call in that can give us some tips on that, because I don't really know, but I think when I was looking into the Celestine prophecies, and it was talking about, the poor me and all the different character types and how they pull energy from others rather than, and deplete others rather than pulling from the infinite source. This sounds like it's in that same realm, that same field of study, or the same field itself, you know what I mean? So I think there is probably a way to properly do that where you're not sort of wore out, because if you're wore out, then you're not able to do it during your downtime, so to speak. I do want to mention there's a number of people waiting, so if you do want to talk, actually raise your hand by pressing *2. Otherwise, I will continue on with my call here. I just don't know that anybody wants to speak. Let's see. So yeah, that's totally great advice, and that, a great testimony to the fact that we can change things, and you got that positive feedback pretty much instantaneously, or pretty quick. I mean, it didn't take a few days or anything. How long until he felt the change?
I would say it was very fast that I felt more relaxed. But I didn't know if that was just because I had decided to not react to the energy. Because usually, when my husband is, when he's getting stressed out about something, I just like tense up inside. I feel like I could just, pop my head off. Yeah. And so I was like, no, there's a different way to do this. I'm going to handle this differently and not let it turn me into feeling something that I'm not, and reacting out of this anxiety feeling. So I thought that what I was feeling was more my intention of not reacting like that, just calming myself down. But it really wasn't. It was calming him down too. So as everything calmed down, I felt better. So that was really 15 minutes. I mean, it might have been 10, 15 minutes. So it was very, very fast.
Oh, wow. You know what it reminds? It reminds me of is when we were in a band, and you would have like the different instruments sitting around. If like the bass player got on and started playing, say, an E note, for instance, all of the instruments would begin to resonate with that same note. I mean, you could literally turn down the bass after it was going for a second, and you could hear the guitar playing an E note by itself just from the sound of the bass coming out of the speakers and making the E of the guitar resonate at that same frequency. And I got this visual in my brain as you're saying this, that people are the same way. They resonate with a certain emotion, and then we begin to resonate with it as well. And then even after they stop resonating with it, we begin to make them resonate with it again. And it's sort of this chain reaction that takes place. And you stop that chain reaction, so to speak, if we can think of it like instruments and vibrations, because everything's vibration, you know?
Yeah, a dampener, yeah.
Yeah. And then
Dampening
actually
it, yeah.
vibrating with a different emotion of happiness or well-being, and then that changing the note of others around you to resonate along with that same one. So I think, you know, if I like to try to visualize like the way it's happening, and that's sort of the one that popped in my head as you're saying this. I'm like, oh yeah, that's totally, you know, we see it happening all the time. So
yeah, that's totally the best analogy. That's awesome. Yeah.
Well,
Incredible.
awesome. Well, we actually do have some callers, so maybe we'll get an answer to the big question: how can we do this without wearing ourselves out? And I really appreciate you calling in.
Well, you have a lovely week, and thank you to everybody in the chat who sent love to my puppy. Means a lot to me, really does. He's a good dog, so
awesome.
Doing better. Hopefully, he's turned the page here and going to be getting better. So have a lovely, lovely night, and I'm just going to hang out in the chat.
Okay,
Bye.
thank you, Ronnie. Bye-bye. And I do want to go back to the phone lines. That was Ronnie in Florida. I forgot to put her name up on the screen. I do apologize. Going to go back to the phone lines to a 303 area code. You are live on the air. Who am I talking to?
Hi, I'm Vicky.
Hey, Vicky. How's it going?
Pretty good. The reason I'm calling is related to the biblical.
Mm-hmm. The scripture I just read?
No, different scriptures.
Oh, okay.
I was wanting to call attention to, I've heard you talk about Paul on other shows.
Mm-hmm.
And I made the correlations to what that may be related to as it relates to Paul's insinuation into the scene.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of interesting because if you look at Jesus' last act before he was arrested to be crucified, he actually told all of his apostles to do the opposite of what he initially told them to do. He told them to take up their purses, and he even told them to take up the sword.
Mm.
And Peter said, "Here's one. And is enough, or should we get more?" And he says, "No, that's enough," basically. And then when they came to arrest Jesus, Peter actually cut off an ear of a soldier.
Right.
And then the Lord, I happen to believe that Jesus was the host of our Father, the Lord of hosts.
Mm-hmm.
So Jesus does one thing, and the Father does the other. And the Father did the healing.
Okay, yeah.
He healed the ear of the one that had his ear cut off. Now, before this all took place at the Last Supper, he washed all of his apostles' feet. And he said, "You'll understand this later. You might not understand it now." And that was because what he was going to do was have them go against what they were supposed to do initially. So he was cleaning their feet in advance.
And that's
how I see it.
Right.
Because the point was, and he also told them to take up their purses. Now you have to understand, they were as wanted men as he would be.
Mm-hmm.
They would round up all of them and kill them because of what they knew. So they were now going to be men on the run. And so they would need help. So this was a way that they could get help without having crossed what he told them initially. Go to door, or not go door to door, but go into these places, take of their substance, eat of what they give you. But he said, a man is worthy of his meat. So don't go go without anything in your pockets, basically, no shoes on your feet. And so that was done so as to confound the false teacher that would come in his absence. And
You think that could have been Paul?
I think it could have been, because Jesus was blindfolded when they flogged him, and they put the robe, the king's robe, on him,
Mm-hmm.
or the purple robe on him. They blindfolded him, and then a man slapped him.
Right.
Mocked him. Well, there's only one reason to have a blindfold on, and that is so you wouldn't recognize who was there.
Mm-hmm.
And in Jewish tradition, people's names change. So I wonder, is my question, if Judas might have become Paul at some point along the way. And then when Paul Saul, not Paul, Saul.
Okay,
and
so
then,
it's like its name changed twice then, from Judas to Saul and then Saul to Paul.
Yeah.
Right.
It's possible. So because having been the man and then there's also a possibility he was even Simon of Cyrene, because he was the one that was forced by the Romans to carry the cross for Jesus. Well, what if that was to carry the cross, or metaphorically, and to be the one to hang on it later?
Oh.
So basically, when Paul comes on the scene, he doesn't repeat anything that Jesus has taught, ever.
Mm-hmm.
He comes up with his own new gospel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's totally true. And I try to tell people that all the time, but they get so upset because, really the church of the day today is, you can't really preach the gospel of today without using the letters of Paul. And I tell people, I'm like, if you removed Paul's letters from the Bible, Christianity would look completely different. But if you removed the Gospels and just relied on the letters, you could have the Christianity of today. So, that right there proves that the Christianity of today is really built around the death of Jesus rather than his life and his teachings. And it's really, it's sad people get upset that I mention that, but I'm like, it's right in the Bible, just read the Bible.
Well, it's because he was usurped immediately.
Yeah.
He even said, the one who's going to betray me is on the table with me at the Last Supper. And he said, who puts their bread into my dish and sups with me, he is the one that will betray me. And that was Judas.
Wow.
But you also look in the scripture, there's a man called Simon Judas.
Right.
Simon Judas. And, so maybe he was even prior Simon.
Right.
And then Simon, he turns around, Jesus says, and I call you Simon Peter, Cephas, which by interpretation is a stone. And he tells his apostles, and there shall be not one stone left upon another that shall not be thrown down. Well, think about where we are. We've got a fake sun. We've got fake scars, a fake sky.
Yeah.
It's dark out there, but it's being all lit falsely.
Yeah.
So, it's so really, Jesus was making a lot of people mad.
Mm-hmm.
So much so they wanted to silence him.
Yeah.
And then they put somebody else in his place, and I surmise that was Paul. There's also a place in the Bible, in the book of Acts, where the book of Acts is an unbiased book.
Mm-hmm.
The person who wrote it is describing the journey of the 12 apostles, or the 11 apostles after Judas left, and they replaced Judas with Matthias. So you can know right then and there the false apostles or the false apostle and the false, that is written in the book of Revelations is not Matthias because he was chosen by the 12, the other 11, to be one of the 12. So that was their way of showing everybody they did not agree that Paul was an apostle, but they do agree that he was chosen for a purpose. And that purpose, I would say, is the purpose of God, to prove to all of us that God exists, because the scripture is coming true, verbatim.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people are talking about, Judas was 5 different people, and I think it's interesting if you get into the works of the research of Joseph Reyna, he actually makes some interesting connections between the twin being being Judas, and Judas possibly taking his place, and all sorts of other theories. There's a lot of theories surrounding that, and when you look outside the Bible at some of the other ancient writings, you find that there was apostles that aren't listed as apostles, and they've got their own gospels, and like Mary Magdalene is one. There's the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, so I can definitely see.
I really think there was only really 12, but I think that they were disciples.
Right.
Because there was 12 chosen, but
right.
I think the rest were the disciples.
Well, I was just simply making
There's even a possibility that Mary Magdalene was Jesus' twin. I don't know. I also look at when he was on the cross and he was crucified, and right before he gave up the ghost, he said, "Mother, look at thy son. Son, look at thy mother."
Right.
Well, the 3 people that were standing there with Jesus on the cross was Mary, his mother, Mary Magdalene, and the disciple that Jesus loved, who I surmise could have been Lazarus.
Right, because it's the going thing is that it was John, right? I believe is what doctrine teaches and the church teaches. Right, but that's not. I was simply making the point that there could definitely be the same person listed as several different names, because we have no idea. You know what I mean? And they've totally, even as far as women are concerned, they've removed women in a lot of places. Some of them remained in there, like the ones that found the tomb and stuff. I think it was still at least in one of the Gospels. It was Mary and someone else, I can't really remember, that talked to the angel and found the empty tomb. But a lot of places, women were removed because they weren't considered as credible back then. So they just rewrote history, basically, to make it more of a credible story. I mean, it was a different world back then, so we really have no idea. But I think you bring up some really great points at how different the story could be from what we understand,
So that's where the Holy Ghost comes in.
Yeah,
the Holy Ghost will tell us.
In Acts.
Because we experience the Holy Ghost, through our dreams, even through our nightmares. I even think that the nightmare, as a lot of people experience demonic experiences. And my feeling is, if you're getting the truth wrong, the truth is going to find a way to tell you. And the truth sometimes hurts.
Yeah.
So really our dreams and our nightmares are trying to get us to realize the truth. So that's the other thing I wanted to mention. So Paul had the first hired house. That means it was a money-making thing.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the Mandela Effect by any chance?
Oh, yes, I've experienced it.
Oh, okay, because I wanted to bring up, while you're talking about Paul, that one of the Mandela Effects that I know wasn't in there, because my friend would have been all over the scripture, and that's 2 Corinthians 11:8-10, where Paul says, "I robbed other churches, taking wages of them to do you service." That's right in the Bible now. I know it wasn't there before, because for a while my best friend was trying to get this through to me about Paul, and I was like, dude, just trust the Bible and all this. This is back when I was really into the church and sort of like just mainstream doctrine or whatever. And, we went on for years discussing this, and he had me call the Bible Answer Man and this other other show about a show kind of like this, but more Christian, and to ask about Paul. And, they sort of all had their answers to of different people that sort of supported Paul as being an apostle, because he never really walked with Jesus, and that was sort of a prerequisite to be considered an apostle, is that you actually had to walk with Jesus. And so there was all of this about it that he brought up to me, but he would have definitely been all over the scripture about robbing other churches, taking wages of them to do you service in 2 Corinthians 11, verse 8. Now, do you remember that always being in there?
You know, I honestly don't remember, because after I started realizing about Paul, and I read several of, I lost interest in listening to him, because I was frustrated. I got very frustrated when I started to realize what was happening. So I can't say that I remember that, but I wouldn't doubt it. The other thing I did realize is when you hear, there's a distinct voice that I hear when I hear Jesus talking. Jesus has his personality, but so does the Father when the Father comes through him. The Father has a voice too. So I believe that Paul was utilized exactly how he was meant to be utilized because of our Father. Now, if you look at what's happened, they've made Jesus into an idol of worship. Even Buddha was an idol of worship. We've had lots of idols of worship, and that's something that our Father said don't do. And now Jesus has been made into an idol of worship. But it's because of how he's been taught. But I kind of, when I saw what he did in his last act, it was very, confusing to me that he would do that. But I understood it because people didn't know, and the Father was walking with them.
Right. And
you can hear through, and that's what the Lord of Hosts is all about. He actually enters hosts and walks here with us. And he'll be the one staring you down.
Because church teaches that as angels, hosts were angels, and I'm like, that doesn't really make sense. Why would they call angels hosts, And it's like, but what you're saying, that totally makes sense. I mean, because we even use that terminology now, a host, someone that's hosting another. I mean, sort of like a walk-in, we might use that kind of terminology nowadays, but it's like being indwelt with the Holy Spirit. It's like you become the host. And, I've seen this happen time and time again with myself and others, where there's times when somebody will come to me and they'll say, when you said blah, 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 that really made a huge impact. And I'm like, I don't remember saying that. And you're like, yeah. And it's like sometimes we're used in a benevolent way to pass along a message, and it's sort of a fleeting idea in our brain where we might just say it and we don't even realize it. I think I do it in comments all the time. Because a lot of times I'll take a deep breath and then I'll just get something to come to me and I'll type it up. But I can see somebody thinking, well, that was just my own ideas I came up with. But, I can't say that it wasn't divinely inspired, just like we're talking about here. Like I became the host or conduit to pass along a message of what someone needed to hear at that moment, And
maybe that host is the Son or the Father. I get kind of confused with that.
Right.
But, I feel that there's totally, there's the Father energy and then there's the Son energy. There are two different energies. One, I feel, stares us down, and and the other is more,
brotherly?
Kind of light, or one's more serious and heavy, and the other is more light and like if he weren't benevolent, he'd be the trickster. If he weren't benevolent.
All right.
But anyway.
So just having just a more of a sense of humor and just lighthearted, playful.
Yes.
Right.
So that's what I mean. Yeah.
So you do mean like while you're reading the Bible, different texts seem more authoritative, like it was the Father speaking through Jesus, and then other times it was more like Jesus as a playful, loving brother talking. You mean in the Bible, right?
Or or even a concerned, freaked out brother that's about to do something and he's not quite sure what he's about to do. He's kind of scared.
Right.
But the Father's not scared at all. He knows exactly what's happening here.
I see.
This is happening. This is what's going to happen,
Yeah.
And
so what do you think? Have you heard me talk about, I think it was Matthew 8, where Jesus refers to the Jewish leader's father, Jehovah, as being the devil? Have you heard me talk about that?
I've heard that, but I didn't know that that's who they were talking about.
Well, yeah, they don't actually say Jehovah. Well, they don't really anywhere pretty much in the Bible. They've removed it and put Lord in there. But I think it was Jesus just used the wording of your father is the devil, who's been a murderer. And then when you look back through all the times of who the Jews claim is Father God is Jehovah, and he did do a lot of murderous acts and things in the Old Testament that, I don't think that was actually who Jesus calls Father. So I think Matthew 8 really makes a nice distinction with who Jesus was calling Father and who the religious leaders, who he called hypocrites, were calling Father. So I think it's interesting because I think that's a huge mix-up because people will look at Old Testament and, when you think all of that was the one God, then things can get really confusing. But once you start seeing the distinction in that, you can sort of start seeing that Jesus' Father isn't a jealous God like we hear in the Old Testament. And then when you think of things like jealousy and anger and things like that, if you were really God and you knew what was going to happen, anger sort of comes about. Even jealousy comes about from not knowing, not being omniscient or omnipotent, and just being this all-powerful God that sees all or whatever. And if you get angry, it's because you get surprised, so to speak. Someone cuts you off in traffic and somebody just, hits you with some information you didn't know out of nowhere. And these are the types of things that will typically make you angry or jealous. So it doesn't point to the all-knowing Father God that Jesus talked to. And that's why I've read the Bible so many times, is because once I make a discovery like that, I'm like, well, now I've got to read it again with these new lenses on, basically, you know what I mean? And kind of unindoctrinate myself, because once you do that and then you discover something else, then you got to go back and read it all over again, because it's such a big book, or library of books, I should say, that it's hard to sort of incorporate your new understanding and see if it fits everywhere in the Bible. So you have to just go through it all over again. And it was exciting for me, but now I look back and I think, oh my gosh, I can't believe how many times I've had to go through it. It's sort of like unraveling this puzzle.
Well, think about this. What if Adam, the first of us, is our father? Not our,
just genetic
because
father.
Because Jesus said, "They call no man your father." So,
right.
But Adam being the father of the religious sect, that being the human, the son of man, or the first human, or whatever, I don't know, or. I also think, it's interesting because Jesus was also seeing into the future.
Mm-hmm.
So I also believe in reincarnation. I believe that Elias most definitely was John the Baptist.
Mm.
And the way the way that John the Baptist says, he came before me.
Right.
He was talking about Jesus.
Yeah.
When he was talking about Jesus, no, he came before me. He was before me. So then it's just interesting, because then, it's confusing to the point where when I think about Jesus, people call him Father.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So
and he actually says, don't do that.
That's the Father that they were calling, because I definitely see a distinction between the Father and the Son. They are not one and the same, although the Father was in the Son and the Son is in the Father.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like we are inside of, God,
mm-hmm.
and God is inside of us.
Right.
By the way, that's why you can get Holy Inspired bread from heaven, and it comes through our mouths, and we don't even have to think about what we're going to say, because it just comes out. So really, that is the bread from heaven.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And that took place with what Jesus did. He said, if I don't come, or if I don't go, then the Comforter will not come. So he had to go do what he had to do. And that is where I think, well, he was numbered with the transgressors. And if you look at the book of, if you read about King David and about Bathsheba and what all occurred there, you can even see where King David, he's learning something via the Lord of Hosts. Mm-hmm. The host is there talking to him, and he's saying, and he's talking about this lamb that was perfect and pure and unspoiled, and that the one, maybe it was God, raised up as a pure, unadulterated lamb that was being taught. And he said, and this man ruined it. And King David said, well, who is that man? I want to do something to him. He should be punished. And the Lord of Hosts said, you are that man, David. So if what I surmise is possible, if you read the book of Acts chapter 7, I think it is, where Stephen is about to be stoned to death, and he starts reading off who Moses is, I'm pretty convinced that Jesus was Moses in a previous lifetime. Mm-hmm. And also, King David, which would make sense, the root and the offspring of David. So the root would be probably Moses, and the offspring, Jesus, and David right there in the middle.
Right.
And so, anyway, I feel that experience when he committed adultery with Bathsheba, mm-hmm. or was it? Maybe I'm saying the wrong one.
No, it's Bathsheba. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and then he had someone murdered.
Yeah, her
basically.
husband put him on the front line. Yeah, exactly.
And that one that he put on the front line may have been the one that was being raised. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe that was the one that was being raised to be the lamb. I don't know. I really don't know. But all I know is that when he came back as Jesus, as Moses said he would, and everything Moses taught was all so we would recognize who the lamb was when he came. Mm-hmm. Or, in the Old Testament, everything that, Moses did with respect to a lamb lets you know what's going to happen to that lamb.
Well, do you have any thoughts on whether Moses, because I know I hear theories that he could have been partly extraterrestrial. Do you get into any of that, or do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I definitely think that I know that there's extraterrestrials. I've experienced probably what I'm thinking it's either a shadow being or a gray. Mm-hmm. I experienced that, which is probably maybe Elohim.
What was the thing you just said? I cut out.
The Elohim.
Oh, right. Uh-huh.
O-H-I-M. I may be pronouncing it incorrectly.
Yeah.
So that may be that.
Yeah, because that's plural.
That race of beings. That may even be angels. We really don't know. God did say, "Make no graven images of anything in the heavens, under the sea, or beneath the earth," because invariably we would have got it wrong. It would be engraved on our brow, but that image may not be what an angel actually looks like, and we wouldn't know what an angel was if we had this feeling they're going to be, a certain way. So I kind of think the Elohim might be the angels, maybe even the fallen angels. Maybe we are the fallen angels.
Yeah, I'm certainly open to all of those things you're saying. And I think that speaks volumes at how much you're willing to realize that we don't know. I mean, you don't come across, this is the perfect channel for you because it's like all of us here are really truth seekers. We don't care if what we have come to understand is wrong. We just would rather know the truth than be right and be wrong, you know, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's because we don't. So much of everything we accept today is just trusting what someone else told us, and they're just trusting what someone else told them. And when you think that never before have we really had the amount of resources at our fingertips as we have right now, do we really want to follow word of mouth teachings that could have gotten messed up a little bit over time, or people could have inserted their own agendas, you know, as new translations of the Bible came out and stories were retold. Many times it was just word of mouth for so many years before they wrote it down. So I think it's sort of putting blinders on to say, well, let's just trust how this is written and just trust the preacher to tell us what it means. And, you know, it's like, I don't know.
Well, the thing about the preacher is it's a way of making a living for him.
That's true, yeah.
So he's going to ignore anything that Jesus said that would affect the way he makes a financial living. Yeah. And that occurs where Jesus mentions, and you can look up the word penny in the book. And he tells, and this is when the Father's talking. This is when I believe it's the Father talking. He said, you know, go into the highway and bring everyone to the wedding. You know, at first he told the prophets to go and bring them, and they failed. They didn't bring anyone. Then he sends them back and he says, bring everyone you can find on the highway to the wedding. And he did. But one person, one being showed up, and he wasn't wearing his wedding garment. What does that tell you? Someone took on the sin of the world.
Yeah.
By you know, everybody else was there, and it was all furnished, but one was kicked out into utter darkness, into the void, bound and sealed. So the words in the Bible are sealed to those that would make it the same way Judas made it, and that was for money, for 30 pieces of silver that bought the field of blood, and we happen to be living on the field of blood.
Yeah.
And
well, I think going back to the Mandela Effect, the way that so many preachers just ignore it. The one preacher that I saw a video of him talking to his congregation about it, he even says now, I have fears that this would empty out my church, but I have to be true to my message and talk to you guys about this. And you know, he pointed out the exact reason I feel a lot of preachers that do see this happening aren't mentioning it, because they're afraid it's going to empty out their church and destroy what they perceive as a business rather than a house of higher, you know, spiritual understanding or learning or whatever, you know what I mean?
Well, the two things are there. They think they're authorities on it because they went to school and they paid good money to learn it, and then they so their ego enters into it, and then they don't want to be wrong. They don't want to be proven wrong. They feel that their salvation might be linked to it, but they fail to read the Bible themselves. They fail to look into it and question the Holy Ghost about things that might bother them, like, well, how come all of a sudden we can have all these houses of God built with tools when Solomon's temple had to be built without a single tool on site? They could not lift one piece of iron tool on site at Solomon's temple because it had to be the true house of God. Right. Because King David, you know, commissioned it to be done, and Solomon finished it. But see, what happened with Solomon, with what Jesus did, maybe he came back as Solomon. Maybe it wasn't his son. Maybe his first act, maybe he was King David, and when he died, he came back as King Solomon. And so King Solomon's temple was built a certain way, but then all the offshoots, all the synagogues started to pop up everywhere, and he started to make lots and lots and lots of money, lots of gold. The gold of Solomon is, related to 666. 666, whatever, of gold is how much King Solomon had. And isn't that interesting? The mark of the beast is 666.
Yeah. All very interesting.
So, and also in the commandments, see, Paul came and he totally undermined everything that Jesus was teaching. Jesus came to fulfill the law, and Paul undermined the law. So people totally ignore "thou shalt not kill." They change it to what they think it means, "thou shalt not murder," but kill is kill.
Yeah.
And we all eat and everything gets killed.
Yeah.
And then we go off to war. We're encouraged to go off to war. Everything is built on the falsehood that Paul did.
Mm-hmm.
But I lose my train of thought.
But yeah, very good point, though, because it's all right there. And I think that anybody who takes the time to not just trust what someone tells you and begin to read the Bible and just consider what the things that pop up, read it again, and like, wow, this works this way too. So even if this isn't the way it is to be, I can definitely see this as a possibility compared to the mainstream possibility, because so many of the things, like I was mentioning last week, just the whole idea of how the rapture is going to take place. I think it was me and Go-Kart Bob talking about it, but just how the rapture is going to take place. It's just so flimsy on, the small amount of scriptures they use to support this huge narrative. And I could come up with a narrative that's equally as plausible using those same scriptures that's completely different than the whole Left Behind scenario that has been so popularized in Hollywood and just in the mainstream church in general,
Yeah. There was something I was going to say and I just forgot it.
Oh, that's fine. I do have another couple of callers to get to. I do appreciate you calling in, Vicki. It's been I love the discussion.
Shane,
I could go on
if you
forever.
do have my phone number, you're welcome to call me and we can discuss it more.
Okay, thank you so much, Vicki.
Alrighty.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Let's go.
You're listening to The Love Stream.
Unbiased and on the fence.
All right, gonna go back to the phone lines. 951 area code. Who am I talking to?
Hi, Shane. This is Jamie with Kindred Being.
Hey, Jamie. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Wonderful. So fun to talk to you. We had you and your sister on, about a month and a half, 2 months ago, I guess?
Yes. We were so happy to be on your show and share the experience with all your viewers. It was a beautiful, joyful experience for us.
Now, didn't someone win a free session with you guys?
Yes.
Oh, did that go good?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it went really well. We got a lot of good information for her and some good information for everyone. So just waiting to hear back to see if she's wanting to share that or not. And if she is, then we'll put it on our YouTube channel.
Ah, that'd be nice. So
it went really well. It was a good session. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so for everybody who might have missed the show with you and your sister, you both opened a new chapter in your life, began doing these BQH sessions, quantum healing, hypnosis sessions, and it's been a wonderful experience for you, huh?
Oh, it really has. It really has. It's something that we feel so deeply about, and it's changed our lives in so many amazing ways. And, it's our goal now to share that with everyone else and to bring that healing to others that we've experienced ourselves. So, yeah, it's like I think I said on your show, I can't imagine doing anything else. And I still definitely feel that way. Every session is just amazing, and I'm just so fortunate to be involved in each session we're able to facilitate.
Ah, very nice. So have you been getting any...
Yeah, but I called...
Oh, go ahead.
Huh? Well, I called about your new video. I don't know if you've talked about that yet on the show because I came in kind of part way, but your video about the all-seeing eye...
Yeah.
I really, really enjoyed that, and I just watched it before I saw that you were doing this, live show. So I wanted to kind of put my little 2 cents in it and just kind of tell you what I've experienced with, like, the all-seeing eye, and see if other people are experiencing the same thing.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Well, it was really interesting to me because when I first began meditating, I was seeing the all-seeing eye quite a bit in my meditations. I was seeing the, the pyramid and the eye. And at first it kind of freaked me out a little bit because I was still holding on to a lot of those, like, old paradigms of religion that I had grown up with. And I was kind of like, concerned about, what am I getting myself into? Because, I had all these kind of fears about spiritism and the occult and all this stuff. And so, as soon as I start meditating, I start seeing these symbols, And so it brought up that fear, which that's why I love your video, because you address that so perfectly about how it's not necessarily a nefarious symbol. And what its true meaning is. And then, in our Kindred Beings Facebook group, we started talking about, the symbols that we see during meditation. And I started finding out that so many other people were seeing eyes during meditation as well. And I came to understand that I was seeing those eyes, and a lot of other people were seeing them too, when you're kind of receiving that third eye activation. So when that pineal gland is being activated, then you can you see these symbols. I would see all kinds of eyes, not only during meditation, but then I would start noticing eyes, like, in my everyday life. That I hadn't noticed before. They were everywhere. So it was kind of a part of that process of that activation of my third eye when I was, really experiencing them through meditation and, in my everyday life. So I wanted to just share how much I really love that video.
Yeah, I wish I had brought up the whole I guess I did bring up the whole third eye thing a little bit, but yeah, that was one of the things that, when you think of a single eye, you think of your third eye, not really just covering one eye, like a lot of times you'll see people in the industry do that. And I did want to also say that, you have to judge people's intentions with discernment or what they say, because I did sort of like lump all of Hollywood in together there, and there could be people that use it, in a positive way. I don't know. I'm not really judging how they use it. I think you sort of have to look at what they represent all around that. Sort of like me. I mean, people look at what I talk about, what I represent, and then see the symbols. So then you can see I'm using it more in a positive light, where if you're looking at maybe you have somebody in Hollywood and they're a really positive influence to you, they could be a light worker. I don't know. I'm not really judging. I just think we should use our own discernment when it comes to things like that, and what we feel like we resonate with, So I wasn't sort of lumping everybody in saying they're all using it in a bad way. I don't know. I'm just saying that that's just like the going belief that if you use that, then you're automatically a Satanist. That's sort of like, that's the surface understanding of it, and it really hasn't always been that way. It's kind of like the rainbow. I mean, if I tell somebody, would you put a rainbow sticker on your car? They're like, well, no, I'm not gay. It's like, well, the rainbow doesn't mean you're gay. They use that to say they're gay, an alternative lifestyle. I don't have anything against that, but, at the same time, it's like, if I loved rainbows enough to put one on my bumper, I wouldn't not do it because I'm afraid of what, people might associate me with, because I think that's sort of losing the purpose. What does it mean to you,
Yeah, I think that's so important. What does it mean to you? And I love how you delved deeper into that sign and where it came from originally. And that cleared some things up for me, because I really hadn't done the research, about where it originated from. And I still didn't quite understand why I was seeing, the pyramid and the eye and the significance of it. So I really loved that video because it cleared that up for me.
That's awesome.
For sure. And and I like your point about, using our own discernment, because I think that's important on every level with, everything that we are receiving, because I think we're in a new state now where we're all receiving information individually, and so we don't have to kind of rely on what other people are saying or what else is coming out, in our media or however we're getting our information. We can, connect and get that information and get our answers directly now, which is so cool.
Totally. Yeah, I agree. And I think a lot of times what happens is, we've been programmed to have a fearful response when we see something. So it becomes an automatic turnoff. And a lot of us have a difficult time to distinguish what is emotions and what is discernment or intuition. And if you see the all-seeing eye and you feel fearful, and then you're watching someone, they don't give you any reason to feel fearful, but yet you see that and you feel fear from it, and then you think, well, they must be bad, then you're actually, that's not intuition or discernment, that's really fear that pushed you away. And to recognize when it's an emotional response and when it's really a response you feel in your heart, like, I just don't feel this person's got my, best at heart when they're talking, rather than, they look scary or their emblem looks scary or something along those lines. So it's like, and that's sort of the whole thing. That's really the definition of discernment, is really separating our emotional response to things from our intuition.
Oh yeah, I love that. Yeah, and like, I don't know, when you're doing a lot of self-work and you're raising your vibration, then you kind of have to be a lot less wary of other people too. So you don't need that judgment anymore of others necessarily, because you're attracting others to your energy and your vibration. People who are kind of on the same level. That's what's being brought into your experiences. So, you can kind of let go of that judgment and just kind of open your heart and relate to people on a heart level. So that's been amazing for me. Actually, just like in the last week, I've been noticing that so much. Like, just people I meet on the street, and somehow a conversation strikes up, and random people are like teaching me so much about energy, and love and stuff. We just start talking, and they know what I'm talking about, and I understand what they're talking about. And I'm just finding that so many people are like aware of this information, so many more than I ever thought were right now. And I think that's like, part of attracting people to you through your vibration, that's what's happening in my reality and for so many others right now.
Yeah, Abraham Hicks talks about that, just becoming that frequency, and you're just automatically going to start attracting a match to the frequency you have. So I think you're totally right. It's like a lot of the things that we worry about, we don't even need to worry about. We just put ourselves at the correct frequency, and the rest is sort of automatic. It's like you don't have to worry. It's just things that don't match you will move away, and things that do. I mean, we can see it with our group here. We've got this nice little group of loving people, non-judgmental people, and it's for a reason, because people feel attracted to that, and we're sort of stuck together like magnets here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, I believe that 100%, and I see the evidence of it. Like I said, but it's that love energy. So basically, through my own experiences, what I've realized is that the answer to all of the questions I've had and all the questions I hear from other people, like, there's one answer to every question, and that answer is love.
Definitely.
So basically, if you're holding that love vibration, all those other things either are going to figure themselves out, or they're not going to matter anymore. Holding that high vibration is going to assist you in all aspects of your life and all aspects of your existence, and bring those people to you. They're also holding that vibration. So, yeah.
That's good stuff. Yeah, I totally agree. And it's like an immunity that we get at a certain level. It's like once you're vibrating at this certain level, all of the stuff that we used to worry about is really like ankle biters at that point, and they're really negligible to your existence, and you don't even have to worry about it anymore. And it's like you don't have to get involved with all the chaos, So I think it's we're all learning here, but that's what I've noticed. I've noticed that that's why I always point back to the I am discourse, because that helped me so much with realizing that I'm in control of making sure I don't get down in the dumps. And it's funny that if you take control of it right when you start to feel like the depression coming on, or just the impatience of not seeing enough change or anything like that, you take control of it right away, and you don't ever have to hit those low lows like even a year ago I was experiencing when I just all these dates had come and gone, and I was like, well, man, when's stuff going to happen? And I got impatient. But then I realized that, it doesn't matter how long the road is to the change I like to see. I can change my experience of it between now and then. Right now, I don't have to wait. And so I recommend anyone that, if you want to look more into what helped me, it might help you. I don't know. It definitely worked for me, though. The whole I Am Discourse is a playlist. And you can just look it up, too. It's from Saint Germain, but I did a recording of it.
Yeah, I've yet to look into that, but I do want to. I want to set aside some time to look into the I Am Discourse for sure. But yeah, I mean, I think that really just changes everything, holding that love energy. And it's really not hard to do. Sometimes when I'm feeling kind of a little bit low vibrational, I can just repeat to myself, like in my mind, love. And just that kind of like adjust my energy just by like repeating that either out loud or in my mind. And it all kind of adjusts and takes me to that higher vibration. So it's not hard.
No, it really isn't.
But it changes everything.
Yeah, and if you can catch it early enough, it's really easy. I always use the analogy of magnets. When you're holding two magnets close together, you can kind of feel them pulling. If you can stop it at that point, they never suck together. But once you let them pull all the way together, then it takes all of that force to pull them apart again. So that's what I've noticed with being in control of our own thing. If you start to feel that pull, and then, fix it, then it's not so hard, because you can be in the dumps for weeks if they get stuck together, so to speak. You can get to the point where you don't want to deal with it. You just feel so bad that you're like, I don't want to feel better, And I think a lot of people go through that, where you feel so bad that you don't even want to feel better anymore. You don't want to do whatever it takes to feel better, and it just, life sucks. And, but it's us that allows ourselves to get to that point. And once I realized that, it was like a light bulb went on. And now I know to take charge of it while I still have enough energy in me to want to deal with it, because I know I won't want to if I let it go too far. So that's and that's like what you're saying with the love. It's really the same principle, just taking control of it with love.
Yeah.
The
well, I think we're really creatures of habit, so we get into a certain mode, and then we get used to being in that mode. And then it's hard, to even find motivation to get into a different mode. So what I found important, in my own path, was getting used to being in the high vibration. So that, is your way of being most of the time. And then you can notice, and you're uncomfortable with a different frequency, because that love frequency is, you're attuned to that. So, you can notice right away when you start to dip and be like, that doesn't feel that great. Let's bring my vibration back up again, And then you get used to that, and then, who knows, goes up from there.
Totally. Well, it was good talking to you. How's your sister doing?
She's doing really well. Yeah, we're both enjoying doing sessions at our office in Riverside, and also doing online sessions, so we're loving it.
That's awesome. Are you in the chat by any chance?
I am. I'm looking a little bit at it here and there.
Oh, okay. I was going to say that you can post in a link or something, so anybody interested in a BQH session can call you and your sister up and get that done. Yeah.
I'll do that.
Because I think it's
Well, I
important
won't
that
keep you on the line then.
yeah, people can get a vibe from people. So they're like, hey, I really like her. I'd like her to do my BQH. So if someone's feeling like that, then they can easily contact you. Or they can go back to the video.
Oh, thank you.
But I think it'll make it easier if you can post it in there. I don't know if I made you a
I'll
moderator, but I'll make sure. If you can say something, I'll make sure you're a moderator and you'll be able to post the link in. So, just whenever you can. And then, make it easy for people to find you. Because I think this is great. I mean, the whole BQH thing and the hypnosis thing, people get little nuggets of information that really helps propel them forward. And I think it's a very important tool for this time that we find ourselves in. Because a lot of people are like, all right, I see I need to do something. What do I need to do? And this is, I think, a great way to, to get in touch with your higher self and figure it out and to know your next step. Or maybe you have questions that you want answered. So, yeah, I think it's awesome.
Oh, yeah, it's helped us so much. So, again, we're just so happy to offer it to others as well. But before I go, I want to ask you one quick question.
Sure.
How are you feeling in October? Because I've heard from a lot of people in our group that a lot of people were feeling very 3D in October, very kind of in this reality. And I have to admit, I was feeling that too. And then in November now, it feels like it's much more like high vibrational. We're kind of, connected again to other realms outside of this 3D. So I just want to compare with you to see how you were feeling.
Well, I think for me personally, coming off of the hills of my Sedona trip, the first part of October, I was still, adjusting from that trip. I felt okay. I didn't really feel down or too 3D, but towards the end of October, I started getting that tingling in my upper spine, and I thought it could have been like a Kundalini awakening or something. And it just felt it felt almost like you're about to sneeze or have a chill or something. And I was like, what is this feeling that makes me want to say hoorah or something? I mean, it was just so intense and exciting feeling. And that's died off a little bit, which is kind of good in a way. I mean, I enjoyed it. It felt great, but at the same time, I didn't know what to do with it. You know what I mean? It was like, what's this energy just bubbling up in my, I guess it would be in between my heart chakra and my throat chakra, but like probably closer to my throat, but more in my spine, but in that area of my back, my upper back. And it was so intense that I went looking around trying to figure out what it was. And, I read a lot of places it could be, your Kundalini energy is rising up your spine. So I just had it at the top, but maybe there was a blockage there that I finally worked through or something. And
yeah.
So I don't really know. I'm feeling great now, but now that the weather's getting cold, I don't know. Puts a damper on things.
Yeah, well, that's really cool. I mean, that's what's so cool about, having access to so many other people who are going through similar things, that when you're feeling something kind of interesting or different, you can go and you can find that information. So
and I did hear reports from others that, said exactly what you were saying, that they just felt lower vibrational energies that were affecting them throughout October. But, yeah, I don't know. I think it's sort of different for everybody on their path, so. But yeah, there's cosmic energy too.
When I was experiencing I thought was like a really personal experience, and then I started to find out that so many others were feeling that way. So, if any of your listeners had felt that way as well in October, I just want them to know that they're not alone. A lot of us were feeling that way, but it seems like we're kind of all on the upswing again. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Good news.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
what are
your
you
sister
doing
back on sometime.
for the 11/11?
We are we're getting together here in Tulsa, just a small group of us, meeting at a coffee house here, just to meet in person, and just a couple-hour little event. But as well as that, celebrating this 11/11 event. For those hopping in here late, I did do an announcement at the beginning, and there's links in the description about starting a new holiday, like a new Earth holiday on 11/11. Of course, it's Veterans Day in the United States, but globally, there's really not a holiday that takes that place. So I do want to, thank our veterans or whatever. But yeah, I thought it was a greght idea. Lori Polina.
I love that idea.
Yeah, it's great. And this is an 11-11-11 year in Gematria. When you reduce the 2018 to all the way down, it reduces to 11. 2 plus 1 plus 8. So interesting.
Yeah. I'm hearing some predictions for 11-11. So we'll see. But it's exciting. I'm so glad that you're doing something like that. Creating that community and actually like meeting in person and getting to exchange energy, face to face. That's so cool.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I wish you weren't so far away. You could meet with us in Austin on New Year's. That would have been awesome.
Oh, I know. I'd love to do that. Well, maybe sometime in the future. I don't know if we're going to be able to make that one.
Yeah. Well, we are planning ECETI next year, and that's not far at all for you. I mean, really probably driving distance for you. I think they're in Washington.
Oh, gosh.
Actually, I think I
would do that.
I think 360 is Washington. I have somebody waiting to talk from Washington. So I guess I'll go back to the phone lines. I need to get you and your sister on sometime real soon. That'd be wonderful to have you back.
Oh, we'd love that. Yeah, just email us. Let us know when.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jamie.
It's
Lots
so
of
good
love to you,
talking
sis.
to you, Shane.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Let's go.
You're listening to The Love Stream.
Unbiased and on the fence.
All right. So I was going to go back to the phone lines. They took their hand down. Did you guys chicken out at the last second? Let me see. 360. Oh, there it is. Okay, 360, you are live. Who am I talking to?
Genty.
Genty?
Yeah.
How do you spell that?
Shenti.
Okay, I got you here. I just wanted to be able to put your name up on the screen so people will know who I'm talking to here. There we go. So where are you calling from? Is it Washington?
Yep, Washington State.
Awesome. Yeah, we're talking about going to ECETI next year. Have you been there before?
No, I want to, but with family and my work schedule, it's just kind of like, a stone throw away from me. But at the same time, it's just I'm too busy. So I often tell my husband, if we have a chance, that's where I want to go for my vacation.
All right. Well, let's plan on you coming and meeting up with the rest of us next summer then. Hopefully we can give you enough time that you can make arrangements with work, and I think it'd be awesome, especially
Well, I figure if it's meant to be, I'll be there, right?
Yeah.
If it's not, I can always hear, like Jim Gillen, he has, like, every Sunday or so, he has a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I listen to his podcast every Sunday, so I find that quite interesting, too.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to Michelle.
Question for you. So do you ever have, like, somebody give you a reading to tell you what star family you're coming from or what star planet you're coming from?
Yes, I actually did one live on the air with Debbie Solaris, and it was like a little mini reading or whatever, but she went through some of my previous lives and places I've lived, and it was really. I've even had lives here in the earlier part of Earth on Lemuria, and we actually. Debbie and I actually worked together in a previous life here. So it was really cool because we both felt that familiarity with each other when we met. Like, oh, wow, you just had this resonance like we knew each other. And she discovered we had actually worked together here many, many lives ago.
Yeah, me and my Reiki master, the lady gave me Reiki.
Mm-hmm.
One time when she was giving me Reiki, I had this vision of me and her were maintaining like a records, but those records were made out of crystals. So what I was wondering is, so I had my star chart reading or whatever it is. It turned out to be somewhat unknown. That's my category from them. But anyway, and the reason I was thinking about it because I asked myself, if you are a soul or an energy, that's where we all coming from. Our purest form is a soul, which is an energy base, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why would you want to go to one particular star system only? If you're an energy and if you're a curious one, wouldn't you want to go to all of them?
Yeah, that's a good
You
point.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, some people like the comfort of going back to the same place over and over. But if you're a curious one, shoot, I want to go to different galaxy and different universe and check everything out, and and basically enrich my soul instead of keep on reincarnating here and here and there and there. I just want to go. Well, I want to go to everywhere as far as the Prime Creator allows me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, totally. I totally get what you're saying.
What I'm wondering is, with each one of us that comes from the energy base, which is a spark of the Creator, that's the way I felt, each one of us is a spark from the Prime Creator.
Mm-hmm.
So we keep on reincarnating, and some of us prefer to stay higher density, higher vibration, and some of us drop down to the third one, like you and me and everybody else over here.
Mm-hmm.
Will there be a time that we're going to be like, okay, I'm done reincarnating with all this low vibration. I'm going to start climbing my ladders and find my way back to that pure energy form again. And when would that be for each one of us to realize, this reincarnation game is kind of getting old. Let's just go back to the energy form and to see what's next.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's why we're given amnesia, because it only takes one lifetime to get tired of it, doesn't it?
Well, another thing is, I don't think it's getting tired of it. Sometimes I'm thinking is that for a soul to become wise, you have to experience, right?
Yeah.
That's why we are in the physical body in different dimensions and stuff like that. And for a soul to gain knowledge, you don't really need wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
You just go and learn as an energy base. You get knowledge that way. But for a soul to gain wisdom, you actually need that hands-on experience.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, totally. That's
So
the
a
whole
lot of
reason
us-
for the duality and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, so for a lot of us, we go and like, okay, we can get knowledge anytime we pop into the Acacia Records deal, whatever, and just pop in and get the information. But then we go and like, you know what? I want to experience what it is like to scrub a toilet.
Right.
I want to experience what it is like have to work every day and get so frustrated, gain from that experience, so that we can gain wisdom from it, so that when we become energy form again, we actually somehow, it really enrich our spark. It just kind of like you grab all those knowledge, compared to some of the souls that doesn't really want to reincarnate that many times. Their spark is still shining, but not as colorful, as enriched, as has as much wisdom in it. Do you know what am I saying?
Oh, totally. Yeah, that's, in fact, Dustin, he had to go do some x-rays, but yeah, we were just talking about this with the whole duality thing, that, how can you, enjoy like bright white without dark blackness, or enjoy a wonderful smelling flower or whatever, unless there's bad smells too. So it's just that contrast that gives us the experience. And I think everybody's playing their parts. I chose consciously to be on the positive path, but without the negative there would be no positive path for me to take, right? So it's all about experiencing, and we just have to sort of take it as it is, because it's all part of this overall gaining. And like you're saying, we gain so much, our spark becomes brighter as we have to sort of find our way back out of the darkness, which is what we're doing.
And that, that's one thing that got me thinking when the previous lady was talking about Bible and stuff. And I remember, I read Bible when I was young, but it's been quite a few years because I got bored with all the stories that don't make no sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, in some of the verses, I really stand out. And one of them, it says, I am that I am.
Yeah.
When you look at that verse, it's a reminder for each one of us. We are that we are. We can actually say that to ourselves, I am that I am. It's a reminder to say, I am an energy, so remember that I am an energy base.
Yeah.
So in some ways, whenever we are in a really bad situation, always tell ourselves, I am that I am. which means that, remember, we are an energy from a higher vibration. So don't get dragged down any lower than you already at.
Yeah, totally. And I think one of the analogies Jesus did in one of the Nag Hammadi texts was to refer to God as water, and we're like, we're made up of water. We're drops of water, and if you can think of like the infinite divine creator being the ocean, and we're all drops. Some of us are moldy and stagnant water and need to be purified, but at the end of the day, we're all drops of the infinite creator, and it takes that to sort of experience life. I am that.
Oh, talking about that.
Yeah.
So when you start on your spiritual path, and did you ever encounter some kind of a, I don't know, test or some kind of, I don't even know what it was. But this is what I went through. So that was about 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So for quite a few nights, when I go to sleep, I dreamed I was in this pit, okay, with a bunch of people, or I don't even know if they're people or not, but beings down there, and they are just looking up to this thing. It's just like a great old beast or whatever Satan that movie usually portrays.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just kind of like really, really looking at him, like worshiping. And then I realized I was in the crowd, and somebody turned around and realized I was in the crowd too. So they start pushing me upwards toward that beast, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And every time before I got there, I woke up out of fright. So that happened quite a few nights. It happened usually like 3 or 4 nights a week.
Mm-hmm.
And it continues and continues and continues until one day I was meditating, and then a word came into my mind, say, ask Jesus for help.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember that, but then when the dream comes, I forget
Right.
again. So one day I remember. So as they push me upwards, all the way up to that big old ugly bastard, I was right in front of the bastard, and then the bastard said, what are you doing here? You do not belong here. It was going to grab me or something, and I just screamed out in my dream, Jesus, help me. And this column of white light just dropped on top of me and threw me in my dream, and it sucks me back out, and I never had that dream again. And I think that was somewhat of a test or somewhat of an initiation. My oldest daughter, when she was young, she went through some dreams like that. And I went through that already, so I taught her what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And because she was having nightmares too, and she did the same thing as what I did. And she said it never happened to her again. So I wonder, do you have those kind of like a test or initiation or some kind of energy try to grab you back down to where you were until you are able to break free so they don't bother you anymore?
I haven't had like the dreams, but I've definitely felt something similar. I always refer to it as my dark night of the soul, where I just felt like everything in life was just utterly meaningless. Even the happy things in life were just like pointless, because it's like, in my mind, I really felt like there was no other time in life where I felt like, man, am I being influenced from an outside force? Because everything was just so dark and heavy on me, and I'd even reached the point where, because I spent my entire life not understanding why people go around in fear, protecting themselves, locking their doors, having guns in their homes, only to turn around and kill themselves. And it's like, it just didn't make sense to me. Just the whole idea of suicide. It was like, I didn't understand someone self-terminating, as it were, just because things got real bad or whatever. But I finally reached a point where I understood it. I never got suicidal just because I wouldn't want to do that to the people around me. But I've been to that dark place where, I can understand someone letting those thoughts take over and, force them to do something and just disregard what it's going to do to everyone around them because they're in such a dark place. So that was my dark night of the soul. And then right after that, thank God I pulled myself out of it, and I started this channel, and I felt like it was an initiation of some sorts. I felt like I wouldn't understand people like that if I hadn't have gone through that myself. So I didn't have the visuals like you explained, but I definitely felt the outside oppression of dark energies that seemed to be trying to just pull me down and make everything utterly meaningless. I felt just like the book of Ecclesiastes in the Bible, where he talks about everything was meaningless, chasing after the wind, I totally felt like that. I don't feel like that now, and thank goodness. But yeah, I definitely went through that time, and it was an important time. Now I see it's like, and then when I checked on the hero's journey, the whole idea of going through a time like that and emerging on the other side a much stronger person, I realized it was just all part of the journey. Sort of like, Jesus having to die and go through, he had to descend into the grave and, still the keys of death, hell, and the grave. Well, that's in the Apostles' Creed, not the Bible. But just that whole idea, though, is sort of the format you see in a lot of movies where they have this this hero that's, he's got a sidekick, then he loses his sidekick, and then he like gets down in the dumps and it seems hopeless, but then he emerges on the other side and then moves around the will of the hero's journey, as it were, to become victorious in the very end. So that's sort of how I saw it after going through all of that.
Oh, that's kind of, this reminds me of something. So when I was young, I spent 15 years in Taiwan. I was born in Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up in an orphanage. So till my teenage years, it was pretty hard I was very difficult for them to basically deal with. So they put me in a convent. And I was there for 2-3 years until I was adopted out of Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
Anywho, so one night, I love the nuns. They are wonderful to me, and they just take me as I am and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But one night, it's like what you say, the dark night of the soul. I climb up to the roof of the convent, and there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth building roof.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was looking down, and I thought to myself, life really, really sucked over here, because I wanted to, at that time, I wanted to be a nun because I have always craved for solitude.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand a lot of human behaviors, because I look at them as I understand I'm a human myself, but sometimes I look at them, I'm going like, why are they behaving this way? Why do you treat each other this way? And, when I was young, it just kind of, I couldn't see the kindness from strangers, because there's always you give and you want something back, and I don't understand that concept. You know what I mean? It just didn't align to what my inner soul thought it should be. So I asked the nuns, is there a chance for me to be a nun someday, because I like their lifestyle. And there were 2 groups of nuns. One was from Malta, who they love me. Another one was from Hong Kong. I think they're more old-fashioned.
Mm-hmm.
The one from Malta said, oh, of course. But then the one from Hong Kong came to me, talked to me in Chinese privately, say, you can never be a nun because your blood is not pure. You are an orphan. Your blood is dirty. So after I heard that night I went up to the roof. I'm going like, shit, even God don't want me. This kind of sucks. Where the hell am I going to go,
Yeah.
So I was getting ready to jump. And then I thought to myself, okay, I got to go head first, because then I can break my neck, because if I don't jump it right, I'm going to break my leg only, and I have to live with a broken leg, and I don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
As I was contemplating, a voice came to me and said, where are you going?
Mm-hmm.
And I turned around. There was nobody next to me. And then I was just looking down, and it says, where are you going? And I turned around going, what the hell is going on? I was getting a little bit scared, because I thought I was going cuckoo. And then it says again, where are you going? And I'm going like, okay, so if I'm not supposed to jump, then say something else. And then it says, it'll get better. So I didn't jump. And within 6 months, the adoption paper went through, and I was, in U.S. by the time I was 15 and a half. And many nights I thought about what the hell that voice said it will get better, because it was not better until about 20 years. It was really like I'm still in that dark tunnel, even though the tunnel was going upwards, but I still couldn't see the light that well, because there were so many twists and turns. But I think a lot of times, a lot of us lost faith within ourselves and lost faith, the connection we have with the prime creator.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we are worthless. Mm-hmm. If we just remember that connection is always there, no matter how bad things get, that connection will get stronger. It's almost like an energy pulse. Just try to remember it. The pulse will come in just a bit stronger for you to, give you the strength to pull through the day. You know what am I saying?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And, when I was in that dark night of the soul I was talking about, it didn't seem like I couldn't imagine it ever getting better, but it does get better. And it might not be overnight, but slowly but surely things have really, when I think of the last year, it seems like things have really gotten better really fast, but while you're in it, it sure doesn't feel very fast. And I really appreciate that story because it's such an encouraging, it gave me chills that oftentimes you hear about this voice that comes in before we, I was listening to a story not too long ago where this guy was having problems with his dad and stepmom, and he went out in the cold and he was going to freeze to death, and he heard the voice, get up, go back, or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and he would have died out in the snow, but he was just ready to give up, just like you were, and he was ready to die. He would just rather die out and freezing to death in the snow than to go back, but he listened to that voice. So that voice does come at those times, and I think it's amazing, that we can either listen to him or ignore him, but there is something more going on than what we see, and we sometimes get little peeks behind the veil like you did. And it's one of the funny things.
Another thing is I also noticed that sometimes when situation present itself in life, especially between my husband and me,
mm-hmm.
and I don't have to deal with family situation because I'm an orphan, so I'm pretty lucky on that side.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to deal with the parents and the in-law. The brothers and the sister-in-laws. I don't,
right.
And that's my husband's side of the family. So I just let him deal with it. I basically just stand from a third-person point of view and try to give him feedback about how to handle situations. And at the beginning, he always says that you don't understand because you don't have a family to understand. And I say, I'm not trying to put your family down. I'm trying to guide you because you have gone the same route so many times and it just doesn't work. Why don't you try another route to see if it works better?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
You can only hit a wall so many times before you're going to crack your own head. So why don't you go around the wall to see if it works?
Right.
And as I was telling us, it doesn't work how you handle with your sisters. So instead of always giving, put your foot down and just say, you know what, this is how we are with our family. It might be the way he was raised, he felt obligated, but if they are grown-ass adults, they need to take care of themselves because
mm-hmm.
that's what we are all meant here to do, learn to take care of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But once my husband started through and he just tried my method and it got better and better and better, and then learned to respect each other more and from a different perspective, and they learn to respect each other not just as a brother and sister but also as a human being.
Yeah, definitely.
And I don't know, it's just almost like a lot of times people wondering, if the same for me too, it's just like why things doesn't work, why doesn't he like me, or why doesn't he this? And I felt to myself, it's because when you really calm down and think about it from a third person point of view, because I have always been reacting to him the same way. So what if I reacting to him or handle him differently, like one of my child, things might be different. And it does, they will have a different reaction, and you're going to, okay, that's a different feedback, let's try something else. So it will get to the direction where you want, which is I want my household basically to be peaceful. I don't want dramas. I already have a teenager, and that's, I categorize her right now as a psychopath because within 3 years of a high school, that's what they usually are. Mm-hmm. Until they hit that 18, they grow up. But in between, we just have to hang in there and watch her grow and make sure she doesn't, go off the far end. But we learn to handle her differently than we handle our son. And we also learn to teach her. While I was teaching her, I also learned myself. That's one thing I noticed, that when I'm raising my children, whatever bad childhood that I had an opportunity to repeat that on them or do it better so that the result is I'm giving them a better childhood and I'm also healing myself. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's how I feel. It's kind of like that. It's just kind of like if things doesn't work, don't go to the same circle. Go do something else. And then if it turns out better, it's because it's aiming for love. That's what I always want. I want love. And then, that's just go that route from now on. And then you might take a few tries, but it's definitely got to be better than where we were because we were going in circles.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true.
That's how
that's so funny that we do that as humans. We if something doesn't work, we keep trying it over and over again. I think it was Einstein who said that was the definition of insanity. It's like doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results,
Mhm. Yeah. And, just kind of like I have, growing up in the orphanage, being half Chinese and half white, I was different to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So they always kind of outcast me, even in the orphanage, up to a certain point until I put my foot down and say, oh, hell no, you're not going to push me around. I'm going to be the leader. You follow me. Oh, you be on your own because you ain't going to push me around no more. But I have always learned ever since I was young to watch people and to watch their behavior. And I tell you, some of the adults did not like that because in Taiwan, the society was so into just do what I tell you and memorize it. Mm-hmm. Do not question. And I was always on the questioning side and the pondering side. And that's what got me in a lot of trouble. But I always knew I was not going to stay in Taiwan. I always knew that deep within me. I was not going to stay there. And that's what got me through all those years. So for anybody out there and they, they felt that they're stuck somewhere or whatever, just, go within. Just go within and look within and ask yourself the question. You don't need a conversation between you or the priest or the minister. Talk to yourself and the Prime Creator. The message will come through eventually.
Yeah.
And it will be more pure and more true. Don't you think so?
Oh, I totally agree. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think for a lot of us who consider ourselves starseeds or people coming to help change this planet, we understand this not fitting in here and not understanding things. And I was also raised half white and half black for the most part. And so I understand never fitting in. I was just talking to my wife about that. And a lot of things I've been dealing with that's been coming back up that I've been having to deal with of this whole thing of not fitting in. And I think it was all important for where I am in my life right now, though, to have a greater understanding.
Exactly, because it's kind of like a reminder for your soul. You don't really belong on this earth. You belong much bigger.
Now
it's kind of like, hey, being outcast, but you belong someplace much bigger.
Okay, I have a funny question to ask you. That Ronnie in Florida says you sound like you're an angel here, and she said sometimes angels view feet as being weird. Do you see the human feet as being kind of weird?
The human what?
Feet, like your foot. Do you think people's feet look funny? Have you ever had any issue? Or they look odd is how she
I don't look at people's feet. No, I don't consider myself as an angel. I consider myself as a soul that's just kind of like you, unbiased and on the fence.
Yeah.
I want to learn. I want to enrich my soul. I'm not into learning on academic level. I'm into learning on soul level because I want to, I want to gain that wisdom.
Yeah.
And I want to teach people. I want to share with people when it's my time to show them where I come from, so that they can use it as an example and find their own way. Because I think a lot of us, we felt like we don't belong anywhere, but, in reality, we do belong to the Prime Creator and ourselves. But with this 3D world, that we are so cut off from our true origin, that's what makes us feeling really, really left out. But we actually from someplace much, much higher.
Yeah.
And we just have to remember that. I don't think I'm an angel. I do believe that we all come from that prime creator's spark.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I look at myself is I'm finding my way back to that spark when I gain enough experience and wisdom from all different lifetimes.
Yeah.
So don't I'm an angel because shit, I have my bad days. Anywho.
Yeah,
well,
I totally agree. Yeah, I think we're all, and I think that's what we were just talking about with the whole duality or whatever. You know, we choose to take the positive path, but that doesn't mean we don't all have dark in us or that we couldn't have chose to take the dark path. It's not like a difference in that way, because we all have dark, we all have light, and the bad, what we consider the bad people, the negative service to self people, they have that spark of life and light in them too. They just choose to ignore it, like we are trying to conquer the dark within ourselves. So it's I don't really see them as being different, like some people see them as a completely different breed. I see myself as potentially being just as bad as they are. I'm just not. Thank God. You know what I mean? Thank God I didn't go down that path.
Yeah, exactly. I can relate myself from somebody's point of view. You know what I mean? Because I have been in those positions and those thoughts has crossed my mind too. But I choose not to act on it because my ultimate decision has always been, is this based on love? Yeah. If it's not, then I don't want to do it.
Right.
Because I want to, experience things based on love.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. And the thing is, one time, I cleaned a bar at night, and I love hanging out by myself. So sometimes those bartenders and their friends, they will stay late because they know I will show up,
Mm-hmm.
and then they want to talk. So I don't mind talking to them, but I'm standing there talking to them. I'm going like, if you want me to talk to you, help me clean, okay? Because I want to go home at a certain time.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so there was this time I was there, and there was this gentleman, and the bartender was there talking to me, and I started talking to the guy, and I was telling him what I thought of him, and I explained to him, he says that, he has done so many bad things in life, that he wants to go to higher doing the good, but he just doesn't know how because he's too shameful of himself. Mm-hmm. And I say, well, look at it this way. I got out a quarter, and I say there are two sides of quarter. So you have experience on one side quite a bit, but your heart has always been on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
I say, you need to walk the fine line on the rim of the quarter. That's where master belongs to.
Yeah.
I say, you need to be your own master and make your own decision. Look at your bad behaviors due to your job occupation as an experience that you have gained and knowledge and wisdom you have gained. And your heart has always reminded you to be good. You have experienced both. Now, what are you going to do about it?
Yes, that's so
good. Are you going to integrate those things to help you move to a higher vibration? And he started crying.
Yeah.
And then the bartender looked at me and said, shit, he never cries. I'm going like, oh, should I go now? Because this guy is like 6'5".
Yeah.
I'm like 5'3", and I'm looking at him like, if he starts crying and going, crazy, I better hit the door and take off.
Right.
But, I went and do my own thing, and I went back upstairs. I went downstairs to clean the kitchen, and I came back up, and he was still crying. He said, nobody has ever told me the things that I have done wrong was actually from a good point of view. And I say, life is all different experience. You got to look at it from a good point of view all the time. Otherwise, you're going to drag yourself down lower and lower. You have a choice. Look up or look down.
Yeah.
It's all up to you. So.
Very good. People in the chat are absolutely loving you, Shanti. Is there a way they can... do you have a channel, or do you put any information out or anything?
I just like to listen to you, and from time to time, if I catch you live, I just like to call and say hi because I like your channel. And I like to stay private. That's why I changed my name on the thing. But on the chat, I'm actually Pondering Soul.
Ah, Pondering Soul. Yeah, I saw you there earlier.
Yeah, but it's just one of those things that I figure whatever comes in my mind, I can actually call you and talk to you about it because I figure you and your audience will get me.
Yeah, yeah, we get you. Yeah, everybody's loving you. They're like, oh, yeah. And I think what you're saying about the bad, I think a lot of times, we take the bad things we did and walk around with guilt and shame, and we let them burden us instead of learning from them, learning our lesson, and helping, letting them help us be a better person moving forward instead of letting them ruin the rest of our life. And that's a choice we have to make. Are you going to let this ruin the rest of your life, or are you going to learn from it and move forward and drop the baggage that you don't need? Because it's a lot of useless baggage if you don't take it and learn from the experience to become a better person. So that's beautiful.
Here's something for you to ponder, though. You see, a lot of us making those choices, that's not so pretty, right?
Yeah.
So, and then we also have a lot of goody two-shoes out there that don't do nothing wrong, right?
Right.
But for people that you're going to be able to relate and to help, when you see somebody in a really bad situation or making really bad choices, you and me, we can relate to them, and we can tell them, hey, I get where you're coming from because I was there. Compared to the ones that never done anything wrong, they're not going to get it. So who will be a better helper? Who will be a better teacher? Who will be a better friend than those people that, that's in the dump right now? It will be you and me because we were there before. So we're going to show them that, hey, it's okay. This is what I did, and it got better. So come on. Let's come along for the ride. I will hold your hands, but you're going to have to climb yourself out of the hole.
Yeah.
So let's go. You can get there. Compared to the ones that's good at two-shoes, they're going to, I don't want to get my hands dirty.
Right.
How the hell are you going to be a master of yourself if you don't want to get your hands dirty once in a while?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So that's just thing I thought about. Anyway,
Beautiful.
I better let you go so that somebody else can bug you.
No problem, Shinty. I appreciate you calling in, and don't be a stranger.
Thank you for having the channel because it's just awesome. So keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. Lots of love to you.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Let's go.
You're listening to The Love Stream.
Unbiased and on the fence.
What a wonderful call from Shinty. Let me get her name off the screen. There are people in the call queue, but nobody has their hands up. So if you are waiting, please do raise your hand. I think it's *2 to raise your hand if you're on the phone. And, one of the things that came to mind about this whole thing was the story of the prodigal son. He went off, squandered away all the money, came back, and his father welcomed him in without any condemnation. And I think that's really what our life's all about. To go out, experience things, figure out what works, what doesn't work. It's not really an issue of bad and good. It's an issue of what do you want to do? Do you want to be positive? Do you want to be a service to self or a service to others type person? And do you want to leave the world a better place than you found it? So I think that's an awesome conversation. Thank you so much, Shinty. I'm going to go back to the phone lines to 719 area code. Who am I talking to?
Oh, this is Roger Prescott, Shane.
Hey, what's up, Roger? Good to talk to you, buddy.
Yeah, not much. How you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. So what's been going on in your neck of the woods lately?
Oh my goodness, a lot of light effects for me, and so it's been fantastic. I sent you a little bit of a video, and I feel I feel very confident that we're all going to be manifesting things, and excited about the fact that we will have those kind of powers. I think I'm excited about that. So, love your show. I love the last caller. The internet here was breaking up on the other callers, but I thought the last one was very, very good, and enjoyed her on the show.
Awesome. Yeah, it was very nice to talk to her. And so has things been getting easier for you? Have you been narrowing down the science of actually doing some of the cool things you do? Because it's been about a year since we've had you on, and I don't know if you shared your link in the chat for people to see, but so for those who don't know or missed the show with Roger last year, he actually can use his power of intention and prayer to get really cool effects on camera with the lights dimming and getting brighter, and really strange light anomalies when he's filming like street lights and stuff like that. And it's all with him just, concentrating, using his power of intention to affect this stuff and it can be natural light like the sun, or it can be, just regular artificial lighting inside of a home or whatever. What I wanted to ask you, Roger, I was looking at your newest videos. Is the sun actually getting brighter, or are you making the phone or the camera or whatever you're using respond to the light differently? Can you see the sun get brighter with your naked eye, or is it in the camera?
No, pretty much everything that I videotape, I can only get in the camera. So I basically just meditate and then play back and see if anything came about. Once in a while, I'll, because I'm not looking at the camera, I look at the source of light. So whatever light I have available, I will use that source. So if it's a computer screen, I'm just staring at a lightning map is one thing that I've done recently because a long time ago, a couple of years ago, I was able to stare at this crystal rock in a photograph, and it would melt from the inside out, and it would start dripping crystal. And the shot was taken in San Francisco, where there were buildings next to it, and the buildings shake. And so if I show this photograph to people at work and different people, not many people will look at it, but a few people have, and they're saying, yeah, I see the vibration or the shaking of the building, and I do see where the rock melted, but it's frozen, but there's a drip. So anyways, finally, after 2 years, I kind of put two and two together, and I feel as if I stare at something with intention, it makes a change. And so the MBB 3333, he had something about a lightning storm over the top of Italy, and the storm was for about a week over the Mediterranean and then moved over into northern Italy. And anyways, I offered my focus and my intention to bless the waters of Gaia through this lightning map by staring at it. And so it's really weird. I can stare at a magazine and I can change different lighting on the magazine, and it'll change in the whole rack and then everywhere in the world. So it's almost like a Mandela Effect. And I think that's what I learned from the Mandela, was that if you change it in one place, you can change it everywhere. Right. And it's pretty amazing, because when you put that kind of logic together with the intentions that I have, and really it's just one, and that is for all water to be blessed by the Holy Spirit. And when you continue that 3, 4, 5, 6 hours a day for years on end, it's weird. It will manifest different things. And so, so I feel as if the light source, wherever it's from, including a photograph, and I think that is the weird thing that took me a couple of years to figure out, that I could look at photographs and I would cause them to create change, whether it be color or movement. So anyways, I always ramble and ramble, but it's pretty wild, and I am very, very excited. I think the latest thing I have captured is these things that the Mr. MRBBB333, he also put on something recently about that alien spacecraft that went through about a year ago. And the reason I bring that up is a couple videos I had sent you, I was trying to show on how this light was coming from the sky that looks a lot like those. And so anyways, it's almost as if I am creating strings of energy from above, and that is how I'm able to work with the plasma. I think that's what I'm seeing, is that I can cast plasma with water and light and manifest things, like the aurora borealis is how I kind of envisioned that last one that I had sent you. So again, I do ramble, but that's kind of an update, and it's just all the feeling like you're Jesus Christ within. I believe on the 22nd day that you are in the inception, you're a chia seed type of size within your mother, and I believe the Holy Spirit or the Christ comes and starts the heartbeat to start beating, and then yeah. So anyways, I picture all kinds of love for my children, for people I've met, all my memories. And that's another thing with the Mandela Effect. I believe that we are to remember our memories, but the loving memories are very powerful. And so I remember all loving memories I've had with people, and it continues to manifest through the intention of love and the Christ. And I believe that him and I are one of the same, and I do walk on the earth as Jesus Christ, as we all are. And so I think that that's very exciting if you think that all of us could have the powers enriched in us through intention of love only. And that kind of knocks the evil people out of the world. I mean, we have control. So, sorry, rambled.
No, that's good. No, matter of fact, man, I'm feeling I feel the chills of just the love. I mean, you exude such a loving feeling that it's really palpable coming through right now. I swear, I'm not just making that up. It's incredible to feel the genuine, just authentic love that you put out, and it's powerful, man. And I really appreciate all you do and all you share. One of the things I wanted to ask you about is because you had an image. I really need to have you on for a full show, man, because you've got so much to talk about, and people aren't going to really know what I'm talking about here. But you had one. right. But I got to ask you about it because it was like, it looks like there's this shadow standing looking at magazines or books in a book. What the heck is that? Is that something you saw and captured, or it just showed up in a photo, or what?
No, I didn't see it. I was at a cashier at a store, and the camera went off me touching it or fumbling with it or something. And I looked at the picture that I had taken, and that I call it the hooded man versus the shadow man, because it is a shadow, but it's clearly with a gentleman or a person that is wearing a hood. Yeah. And 2 or 3 days later, I learned about the hooded man through one of Alba readings that go on for about 2 hours. And she was talking about the hooded man and how it brings information to her and not to be afraid of it anymore. So I was never fearful of it. I showed a lot of people at work, and they're like, holy shit, that is so weird. Anyways, what was left behind is the next day I took a picture of the same spot in the same area, and there was one black book, same blackness as the shadow or the hooded man. And anyways, to wrap it up, so the hooded man left, in my opinion, like he had left this other woman helpful information, and it was in a health food store, and it was the pH balance, and it was all about water. And I have studied water for 6 years now. I know a lot about water. And I believe that the reason I can cast the plasma or cast the light is from the water falling from the sky in snowflakes. And I need that type of moisture to be able to, So anyways, that's what the shadow hooded man is all about. It was just a phenomenon or a freak, weird thing right there. But there's no one there.
Yeah, it is weird, man. It was like, it's almost like somebody took a silhouette of a hooded person and put it there. It's not transparent, so it's not like some kind of dark, evil sort of. It doesn't look evil to me. It just looks like, what the heck did somebody put just like a cutout of a person? I mean, it's just weird, man. I didn't feel fearful or anything when I looked at it. It was just strange that it's right there. But you also had a video of your grandson with this weird sort of thing on the ground.
2D. Yeah.
And that was a video. Do you have these posted on your Facebook? I was looking through trying to find.
On my Facebook, I have two. I have one where I casted the plasma last year, and it was all 2 years ago, rather, and it was white light that I was able to cast. Now I believe, and well, I don't believe it, the last one I sent you, now I'm working with colors, and the gold and bronze and the green and red and the white cross that came about. So, I lost my train of thought of what your question was, but yeah, so thank you for the loving comment that you made, because
it's power. We were actually talking about on your the pictures available, because I posted your link, but I didn't see the
yes.
No,
I don't know how to do that. I guess I'm not sure how to do that. other than posting. Yeah, so I posted the white thing, and I posted something else on my Facebook page. There really isn't much there. I stopped YouTube about 4 or 5 years ago. I had like 31,000 views, and I'm like, this isn't enough. I got to reach millions and billions of people. So I went more of a spiritual route to be able to manifest and touch each person and the waters within. So I believe that if you can change your waters within yourself to be blessed by the Holy Spirit, then just like the Mandela Effect, everybody's water changed. So I do that. I use the light to bring it into me, and then it goes real black, the screen, and then I breathe out, and then the ether comes out, and the light gets really bright. And I believe I'm breathing in ether or angels and able to cast light. And so it's a very exciting life, but it's a very lonely life. I really can't talk to anybody about anything. I just keep pursuing 4 hours today, 6 hours today. It was like a 10-hour day, and I captured all kinds of stuff. And it's just, I've got half a terabyte of information again, and I don't even know where to put it. So so it's a very exciting times for me, and I know that we all are going. I just don't want it to be a crawl where you get the manifestations and then this other person. I really want it to happen overnight. I'm really impatient at this point of 6 years, where I really want this to, in a blink of an eye. But anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that. I had done that video a while back of like the top 50 Mandela effects or 50 Mandela effect changes, and I got a lot of them from your first video because you had put out. Man, it was like I think a year before I even heard of the Mandela effect. You had made this compilation of all these things that changed, and I used a few of the ones that you had on there, and so you've been aware of this Mandela effect for quite a while, man. It must have been a lonely road for you at first before everybody else started catching on, huh?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll tell you, Shane, the problem was 4 years, all I told my family, I looked like I was completely nuts. My entire family, all worried about me. Still to this day, they're all worried about me. They think I am totally flipped out. Anyways, so the first 4 years, I had no proof of this energy that I was feeling. And then the Mandela came out, and I'm like, holy shit, now I got proof. I can show everyone I'm not crazy. How exciting is this for me? And everyone's like, Berenstein, whatever. I'm like, what? Wait, let me give you another. So when I got the proof, I thought, oh, my God, I got my family and everyone, friends, they'll all join hands with me now. Hell no. It's been isolation completely. It's like, if you got shit that's moving on a photograph, I don't want to see it. And I'm like, oh, fuck. This is my proof.
I know.
Anyways.
That's just as bad as the Mandela effect itself, is the fact that
worse.
That people you think you finally got something to show people, man. And I don't know, it's like my best friend used to watch like Sex and the City, and I thought finally one of my friends gonna see, my best friend in the world. It's and I call him up and I'm like, dude, you remember Sex and the City? And I said it so fast, and he's like, yeah, I'm like, it's Sex and the City now. And he's like, it's always been Sex and the City. I'm like, no. It's like, it's just, oh man, it's like all your hopes and dreams get stomped on. It's like, oh man, that one thing I finally thought he would notice, and I just can't believe this doesn't even seem like the same person. Why would he just ignore it? And why doesn't he see it? And so many questions, man. I didn't even watch the show,
I'm familiar. Yeah, I knew about the Mandelas and documented them, like you said, on my YouTube. And then I fell into the water changing on the water molecules that Dr. Emoto did. And I'm like, what? I knew those by heart, and they were all getting ruined and damaged and changed. And really, it directed me to the whole water thing of heavy focus. Here's the thing, is I studied electricity, free energy, and water for 3 years, 4 years, not knowing what I was supposed to do with it. And now it's all come together where it really is energy or light energy that I believe that it can be used with water, and it can change the structure of the water as if it were blessed by the Holy Spirit. Now, you want to talk about a beautiful beautiful snowflake or water molecule, if you could change all water molecule level water, and I know it's a big aspiration, and that's why I believe I've gone to the lightning map, because I know that sounds bad, but I think there's a lot of energy in the light that I look at, and I really think that I'm able to assist with the blessings of the water through this type of stuff. So yeah, it all sounds crazy. I sound crazy to even myself. I'm like, you're crazy. But then I have like 7 angels fly by me today, and I got them all recorded. I'm like, I'm not crazy.
Right.
It's crazy. It's wild. It's wild. But it's lonely, and I wish I could, I really wish I could go to Sedona, where you're going on the 11/11. It means so much. I have been seeing 11/11 for 6 years. It's a big date for me. Right. And I'm excited. I think 11/11 could be that magical minute. I don't know. But
Sedona was at the end of September, beginning of October. This is going to be right here in Tulsa. I can't wait to get back. They're actually having an event. I'm going to have a guest on next week, Tolik, that puts on the events in Sedona, and they're having one on my birthday next year in April that I'm going to try to go to
cool.
March 30th. But
nice.
Yeah, really cool place to go if you can make it out there. You're in Colorado, is it, or?
I am in Colorado Springs, right here with Tesla. I studied a lot of Tesla's work, and I'm like, oh my God, it's like I'm in like the greatest place for energy or something. I don't know. It's 6,000 feet high that I sit, and I think that helps. And I go to the side of a mountain and I pray, and just crazy things happen. So, I'm Colorado Springs, where I reside for about the last 20 years. And
really?
I don't know. I think there's some energy. Yeah, I think there's some energy out here.
we used to go to Colorado Springs for vacation every year when I was a kid, or almost every year for about 5 years in a row. And we would go down to, I think it's Manitou Springs, the little shopping area.
Yeah.
With a little arcade and skee ball and all of that. Is it all still there?
It is.
It is.
Yeah,
Man, I don't know how many quarters I dropped through that decking where the dollar changer is, and I thought, man, I bet there is just a pile of quarters down there in the river underneath that deck. It was like somebody should scuba dive down there and get rich, because I know I dropped at least a couple of bucks down that thing. They got, so for you guys that don't know, they got this dollar machine right on this decking with slots in it between the wood. And if you accidentally drop a quarter, it goes right down between those wood slots into the river below. And do you know what I'm talking about?
No, but I can picture the whole thing.
Oh, right.
The town and everything else. Yeah.
So we used to hang out down there. It was a great place. Is that where Penelope's is, or is that that might be Estes Park? I can't remember now. But there was a little restaurant that we go to down there. But yeah, it's a beautiful city, man. I love it there in Colorado Springs.
Well, it's just something magical going on. I was sound asleep. I had no religion, no anything ever until 50 years old. And everyone I met religious throughout the years, I was kind of like, I'm really happy for you. I don't know what to say. I don't know what you're talking about. But, similar to like the Mandela, I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm happy for you, kind of stuff. And then when the energy hit in 2012, September of 2012, I think it was September 23rd, honestly, I fucking freaked out for 6 months. I couldn't work for a year. And then I got back to work, and I had to take another 6 months off because the pictures started moving. And I thought, okay, I'm supposed to be doing something else. I'm not supposed to be doing this. Yeah. So I went to picture moving for 6 months, and then I had to go back to work. This reality is that you have to work here. And I keep thinking, I don't live in the same place. That nothing is the same on the Mandela Effect. Yeah. So I can't believe I still have to work. But and I was diagnosed, unfortunately, with an illness. I got a tumor in my bladder, but we think it's non-aggressive, and hopefully in the next 30 days I have that removed. So I really think it's really no big deal. But my health has like been perfect all my life. I mean, I don't even get a scratch. I mean, I don't even get an itch. I mean, my health is incredibly incredible. So this kind of caught me off guard, and I thought, what? Someone as blessed as me? How the heck could I get a?
Yeah. I think you could definitely use that power of intention to probably just shrink it to nothing, or make the surgery go
I'm
good
working
or
on
whatever.
It. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that's what I told my daughter. I said, I hope to go in next month, and they scope it, and they're ready to take it out, and they're like, it's the size of a grain of hair. What the hell happened? So I'm using the intention to shrink that, and who knows? I mean, it doesn't. The thing is you don't fear death at all. So I mean, if this is my time, this is my time. I'm not worried at all. But I hope I completed my mission, because I'm definitely here on a mission, and I want to make sure I complete it. And I thought the completion was the ascension of all of us, not me dying in the surgery. But who knows?
Totally, man.
Anyways.
Yeah, you have a lot to offer.
I got to let you go, man.
All righty, buddy. I do appreciate you calling in. Lots of love to you, man, and we'll get together soon.
Yeah, lots of
for
love
sure.
to you, too. Oh, thank you. Yeah, love you and love your show. Take care.
All right, you too, buddy. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
That is awesome. Wow, I have had so many people jump in and out of here. I guess they got tired of waiting, maybe. But I do need to wrap it up a little bit shorter tonight because my wife has it going an hour earlier than usual. But I want to talk for a minute to hopefully we can get Roger back in there. If I pasted his, you could friend him on Facebook and he could send you the photos if he's not going to post them. But really good guy, and like I said, I can feel the mission in him, and I think it's probably that he spends 4 hours a day. I wish I could spend 4 hours a day. I try to meditate for a half hour, and it's like I go into such a deep trance that I end up having to usually take a nap or something. So I usually try to like keep it at about 20 minutes per session, because it wasn't like that before. But I don't know what the deal is. It doesn't matter if I've had caffeine or whatever. It's like my meditations are going so deep now that it's like I feel so groggy coming out of it. And I've even felt like that waking up. I'm like, man, why do I feel like I've been in such a deep sleep? It's like I lose track of time in a big way. And I'm not even using like binaural beats or anything. So I did post your link in, Roger. I see you're back in the chat. Let me paste. This is the Facebook that I have for you. People can friend you, and then maybe you can send the images out or post them, because I think a lot of people, I know you have a few images and videos posted people can check out, but I think it's important what you're doing, and I think that it's something we all need to start playing around with, because it's just like, I used this analogy before. It's like you call to have like your satellite installed and put in or whatever, and it's all there, right? But it needs to be activated. But if you don't ever like turn on your TV and turn on the satellite receiver and check for your channels or the guide to see if it's turned on, it's like it could be on for weeks and you wouldn't even know it's like there and ready to go. So on some level, I feel like if we're not sort of playing around and seeing what we can do, what if we're able to fly and we don't even know it yet, or able to heal or able to affect things with our intentions? And I think Roger's a great example of someone who's really began to see he can make real world effects on things. And I'm blown away when I see stuff. And then, he accidentally catches this picture of this hooded individual. Like, what are the chances that the phone would accidentally take a picture and the phone wasn't moving so fast that it blurred it out either? It was like a clear image of some kind of hooded black silhouette looking at books or magazines, and it was really mind-blowing. I wish I had that image to share, because he's got so many things to look at, though. You just got to check out his Facebook, and like I said, love to have him back sometime too. Maybe we can just pull things up one at a time again like we did before when he called in, because it was so cool to see so many things on so many levels happening, and it's really cool. So we do have Power of 8 at 8 tomorrow night, and then of course Sunday I will try to get at least a little bit of footage of us getting together at let's see, what time are we? I think we're going to have to move it because it's too cold. We're going to have to move it to like 2 at the Gypsy Coffee House, and just get together indoors. We were going to get together at Guthrie Green across the way, but if you are signed up for the email list, and I had to have someone call me Brian, I will send out a text to him to let him know he doesn't do email. But other than that, I will send out the information, and we can all get together at 2 o'clock at the Gypsy House in Tulsa. Nice little place. So until tomorrow night, I hope to have you guys all back. Lots of love and light to everyone. See you in the next one. If you'd like to support the work I do, go to paypal.me/UOTF. Thanks.